Released originally in 2015 for Japan and in early 2016 for the rest of the world for PlayStation 4 and PlayStation Vita, it's Digimon Story, Cyber Sleuth. Based off the Digimon franchise that began its roots in the mid-90s as a weird Tamagotchi knockoff thing, but then skyrocketed in popularity with the iconic animated series and movies, released originally in Japan in 1999, and then sure enough, the rest is history. Fast forward to 2016, developed by MediaVision and published by Bandai Namco Entertainment, in Digimon Story Cyber Sleuth, you begin by picking your gender of the main protagonist and giving them a name. The boring person I am, I just left it with the default name that appeared and began my journey. You begin your story in Eden, a physical plane or world if you will, created in the cyberspace of our very own internet, with forums, chat rooms, and websites and such, that with your avatars you can, I guess, physically, digitally go to and walk around or something. I really don't understand the convenience of this place. It's probably one of the most inconvenient ideas I've heard of in a weird near-future universe. Why bother typing in a URL and instantly going there and looking and reading at stuff with your own monitor, when you can physically navigate your way there? You could end up lost like this guy by accidentally going to the wrong URL. How exciting. Anyways, in Digimon Story Cyber Sleuth, to keep the summary of the story brief and spoiler-free, it can basically be summed up as... hackers are up to no good in Eden with the command of their very own Digimon that have, without spoiling anything, somehow spilled into this human-created digital realm. One thing leads to the next, you stumble on your very own Digimon, then some stranger tells you to get in her car, and next thing you know, you're working as a detective known as a Cyber Sleuth, working for the neato Broadway detective agency solving digital crimes. But is it any good? Let's find out with the good. To sum up Digimon Story Cyber Sleuth on a gameplay perspective, it's basically a turn-based JRPG taking inspiration from games such as Pokemon and Persona. With over 240 Digimon spanning across the original series to some of the newer shows and films, it's easily the best aspect of this game. It's packed with different types of Digimon to tame, and throw in some fun turn-based RPG action and you've got a damn good 3D Pokemon clone on your hands. Each Digimon have their own respective base type ranging from Virus, Data, and Vaccine. Virus trumps Data, Vaccine trumps Virus, and Data trumps Vaccine. Basically your typical sort of rock, paper, scissors alignment. Then throw in some elemental types in addition to this, such as wind, fire, water, etc., for additional damage multipliers your Digimon can do, making the turn-based RPG action all the more fun and interesting. You can acquire Digimon by simply fighting the ones you'll randomly run into while you're in the lower sections of Eden. Each time you fight a Digimon, you gain a percentage in their scan rate. Once you've reached 100%, you can then create and hatch this Digimon. Reaching a maximum of 200% in battle gives them a small stat boost once you've created them. And of course, once your Digimon have reached a certain level or ABI requirement or stat requirement, they can then Digivolve and become even stronger. My next favorite thing about this game is simply the environments themselves, everything from exploring the digital realms of Eden in all its weird and colorful glory, to running around Tokyo, Japan and checking out the real-world locations such as, forgive me if I horribly mispronounce these, Shibuya, and the iconic Weibo mecca of Akihabara, this, that on screen, and other neato locations such as Uno, and of course the neato Broadway. As for the story itself, once again without spoiling anything, I thought it was pretty decent. The cast of characters is fantastic, and the dialogue for the most part is pretty enjoyable and lighthearted. The story goes from we gotta stop those gosh darn evil hackers, to let's just say, something a lot more interesting. On top of that, throw in some great side cases or quests if you will, which this game has plenty of, and some free DLC missions as well, and you've got plenty of content here. You can easily sink a good 100 or more hours into this game, then throw in an online battle system as well, and you've got plenty more you can sink in. But with all of these hours of gameplay, there is always the bad. Graphically speaking, this game isn't exactly much to look at, but to be fair, this is a Vita game ported to the PlayStation 4, and all things considered, it runs absolutely fantastic, and during my 100 plus hours with it, I had no crashing or any bugs whatsoever. However, on this aesthetic note, the camera is also in a fixed position. For the most part, it works fine in almost every area, but there is the odd time where it pans down for whatever reason, and if you have a lot of large Digimon on screen, it looks like a bit of a mess. And speaking of messes, whoever was in charge of translating this game definitely messed up. A lot. I lost count how many times I either read some horrible grammar or bad typos in general. One other issue I have with Digimon Story Cyber Sleuth is the amount of grinding you'll need to do. If you want your Digimon to have the best stats, you're in for one hell of a grind. But not only that, every time you Digivolve your Digimon, they go straight back to level 1. Then to top it all off, throw in maxing out your ABI to 100 on your Digimon, you'll then be devolving and evolving your Digimon and grinding relentlessly for the best stats, which I'll argue you'll probably need to do later on, simply because the difficulty level is all over the place. Which is probably the worst thing about this game. For a good portion of the game, it's a complete boring rock, paper, scissors tier cakewalk with very little challenge thrown your way. But later on in the game, out of the blue the game just spikes in difficulty, especially with the free DLC cases. Mind you, these are optional, but I'd argue the difficulty in the DLC cases in particular is artificial, since the Digimon you're going up against don't have the same abilities as the ones you can capture and train in-game, even if you use the exact same ones. These Digimon in particular have absolutely absurd stats and abilities that can completely lay waste to an untrained team or lower ABI team. Even with my maxed out grinded half-to-death Digimon, I had a fair share of pretty tough battles, and the whole time I couldn't help but think to myself, if I were the typical kind of casual player who didn't bother grinding too much and just fast-tracked my way through the game without much thought, this would be absolute hell right now. Like, look at this for example. Watch as my fully leveled team of Digimon gets sweeped. It's completely bananas. Unless you abuse a ton of items and certain abilities, I found the best way of dealing with these challenges was simply to cheese it basically and abuse items half to death. With all that being said, let's now discuss the opinion. If you're a fan of the Digimon series or turn-based RPGs in general, then Digimon Story Cyber Sleuth at the end of the day is a game you definitely shouldn't miss out on. Despite my issues with the difficulty and some other minor things like the heavy amount of grinding, the story despite all this kept me very interested, and in the end I clocked plenty of hours into this game. So here's hoping in the future if we get more Digimons coming west, we can at least get a better translation. But with all that being said, now it's time for my rating. Out of 10.